We've got a pretty cool video lined up for today. Some might even say educational. Now, while this isn't necessarily groundbreaking, as I've seen other videos of this nature made, I was never really satisfied and didn't really get what I wanted out of that. So I figure if you want something done right, you better do it yourself. So today, we're gonna see what reigns supreme in the modified barrel category, comps or ports. Let's get into it. Here's a quick overview of what we'll be running today. These are all full to mid-size pistols with the exception of that guy, who's kind of a special character. We'll get into that later. As you can probably tell, these are all of the Glock platform, with this being a true Glock and the rest of these guys being custom aftermarket builds, or as most people call them, Glock clones. Okay, so just in case you've somehow made it this far without noticing the thumbnail or the intro, and you're wondering what the hell you're doing here, you're not alone. How did you make it this far? Anyway, we're going to go over each of the pistols and what makes them special, starting with the Glock, the true Glock 47. This guy has the Radian ramjet and afterburner barrel and comp combo. This is, in my opinion, the best looking comp on the market, and it is a really cool system that uses, instead of a threaded barrel, it has a little set screw type deal that kind of locks into the barrel. So really cool two-piece design that doesn't require threading the comp on to the actual barrel. Anyone who's ever run a comp with a threaded barrel knows that it's kind of annoying and a son of a bitch to get off when you need to. Next up, we've got another Glock 47. This one's got a Nomad frame on it, and this is custom ported by SAS Tactical. This is more of like the custom ports that you would typically see. This is a 2-line port instead of a single row, so I guess that would be the only difference that wouldn't make it typical, so to speak. And here we have another Nomad frame, but we've got the, probably, in my opinion, the coolest slide and barrel combo that's on the market. This is the Arc Reactor, and it's got a big blowhole in the front there. I just love the looks of this slide and barrel, and it is quite recoil mitigating with that big blowhole in it. And here we've got my everyday carry. This is a Glock 19 model, and it's got a SCT frame with a Marconi Armory slide and barrel. And this one is pretty special because it's got not only the blowhole like the Arc Reactor, but it's also got a single line of ports. Very fun to shoot, and I haven't really ever tested this to know if those dual ports make a huge difference versus a single row of porting or the blowhole, but that's what we're here for today. And then last, the special character, so to speak. We've got a Glock 43X, again, SCT frame. We've got the Faxon barrel and comp, and this is a standard style comp. This threads directly onto the barrel. The thing about this, and the reason I wanted to bring this into the picture, is because while this is a subcompact gun, the feel of it with the comp makes it very similar to a Glock 19. So I kind of wanted to just throw this in there and see, is this that much different, or is it even better? So let's find out. So to start things off, we're just gonna go down the line, fire a single shot at a side angle. We'll roll that back in slow-mo just to see what, if any, difference in muzzle rise we have from not only the different styles, comped versus ported, but also, since we're running everything from a Glock 47 down to a 43X, will the barrel length play any role? That being said, that's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this video in this particular format with the different sized frames, because I know a lot of people tend to prefer either the full size or something more compact, and especially if you're everyday carrying. For me personally, the Glock 19 kind of answers all of those questions. However, I will say this. With my everyday carry, this Glock 19 model, I went with the porting because I used to carry this Glock 43X, and while it is still pretty concealable, if you notice here with the comp, the 43X is actually larger, and it could potentially, not so much print, but it'll jab you down in the nether region, if you know what I mean, a little bit more. than just going with a Glock 19 with no comp on it. So that's definitely something to consider. So for any of you out there that have been thinking about going comped versus ported and maybe have that decision of which model you'd like to select based on the print or how much it protrudes, we're going to answer that for you today. So you're welcome. First up is the Glock 47 with the Radian comped barrel. Next up, another Glock 47. This one's got the more standard style ports in it. Moving down the line, we've got the Glock 19X model with the Arc Division reactor slide with that big blowhole port on it. Last up, in the full to mid-size category, we have my everyday carry, the Glock 19 model with the Marconi Armory dual ports, the blowhole, and the standard inline. And now for the bonus round, boy. This is the Glock 43X with the Faxon comp on it. And I am very excited to see if there is a great difference in muzzle rise between this and something like the Glock 19, or for that matter, any of the other pistols. So based on the first exhibition, it was really hard for me to tell any notable difference in terms of feel. However, I'm sure that running it back in slow-mo will be the tell-all as far as degree of muzzle rise. Also, it is probably worth mentioning that I do train with each of these pistols pretty regularly, so I handle them all pretty much the same. So of course that probably does play some role. Other than that, we're going to move on to some rapid fire, 3 shots each, and see if that quick shot really changes the game in terms of return to zero and muzzle rise. And now for the little engine that could. This should be interesting because you would think this one's got to have more muzzle rise, right? So I was trying to think of something to really put the muzzle rise to the test that we haven't already covered. So why not one-handed? So final thoughts on the comps versus ports showdown. You know, this was honestly kind of eye-opening to me because I thought for sure there was going to be a discernible difference between comps and ports, especially in terms of barrel and frame size. However, as it turns out, they all do the job relatively well. And as far as the user end feel, not a big difference. So one thing I can say is if you're basing a purchase decision off of, you know, do I want something mid-size? Do I want full size? Comped or ports? It doesn't make enough difference to sway a purchase decision, in my opinion. Now, as far as concealability goes, maybe porting would be a better option because you don't have the additional length to consider. That's why I went with the ports on my everyday carry. As I mentioned, I believe earlier in the video, I switched from a 43X that was comped over to a Glock 19 model with the ports, and that was the reason why. So that's something to consider. Now, while there wasn't a huge difference, there was one that stood out among the pack. And for me, that was the full-size Glock 47 with the standard-ish style porting. This guy performed the best in return to zero, felt recoil, and at least for me, in my perception, the muzzle rise. So if I were to advise you based on what I saw today, I would say go with a full-size gun with just standard porting. Another thing that I did learn today that I'd really never thought of before, surprisingly, was that when you consider your standard comp that threads or clamps onto the end of the barrel versus the blowhole port, I don't think there's any difference whatsoever. I know that with this particular comp, Radian says there's like a 40% recoil reduction. I'm not here to tell you that that's not true, but I am here to tell you without a shadow upon a doubt that I couldn't tell you the difference as far as feel between the two of these. So that is definitely something to consider, because if you're going for concealability, you want to, have like an everyday carry that really does have that recoil mitigation, you might consider the port because you're not adding that additional length with the comp. Now, if you're just building a dope custom gun, you're going for looks, you don't really care because you're not concealing it, man, it doesn't get any better looking than that. In my opinion, that comped look is just money. So, food for thought there. Otherwise, I think I learned a lot today. I hope you guys got something out of this. Maybe if you were on the fence about something and thinking, man, I want this barrel length and frame, but I'd like to have a comp on there, or vice versa. I'm here to tell you that I don't think that should sway your purchase decision. Get what you want. The comps and the ports are both very effective, and at least me personally, I don't even think that the barrel length and frame size made a huge difference. If you're comfortable with shooting your gun and you've got good form, I think the port or the comp is going to help you sufficiently either way. I hope you guys got something out of this and enjoyed the video. It'd be awesome if you could like, subscribe, and help spread the word, because I'm just getting this channel off the ground and I'd really like to reach a broader audience, and I know I can only do that with your help. I've got a lot of ideas coming up that I think will really appeal to the everyday shooter, and that's the audience that I'm going for here. So if that's of interest to you, I'd love to have you join me on this journey. Otherwise, as always, cheers and God bless.